This is the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Committee I-900 Subcommittee, and today is January 4th. I am Representative Jerry Paulette, Chair of JLARC. We have a hybrid meeting, and online I know is Vice Chair Wilson, Senator Wilson. And today's public hearing is on the state auditor's performance audits on the WSDOT toll collection system replacement project 1, and secondly, evaluating customer service at Washington's Department of Employment Security. There is public testimony that we will take on both reports. For both reports, we will have agency responses and then questions. So with that, I'd like to welcome the staff. Actually, we need to do a quick roll call of members present, and then I'll welcome the staff from the State Auditor's Office.
This is a roll call for attendance at the January 4th, 2023 I-900 hearing. Representative Berg.
Present.
Representative Fye. Representative Frame. Representative Gaynor. Senator Hasagawa. Representative Hoff. Senator Lovelit. Senator Mullet. Representative Orcutt.
Here.
Representative Paulette.
Here.
Senator Rivers. Here. Senator Saldana. Senator Short. Representative Stokesbury. Senator Wegener. And Senator Wilson.
Here.
Thank you. We have 5 members in attendance.
Thank you very much. And as a reminder, I will be looking for hands up on Zoom, but I think right this moment, Senator Wilson is the only committee member on Zoom, and I'll be keeping an eagle eye out for hands, physical hands going up in person on the dais. Please remember, if you're joining on Zoom in the room, to turn off both the audio input and output on your laptop if you're joining on Zoom here in the room. Okay. With that, I'd like to invite the State Auditor's Office staff to join us, and I'll let you introduce yourselves, and then that will be followed by comments from the State Department of Transportation, and then if there is anyone from the public who would like to testify, and then we'll take questions from committee members. Okay, welcome, and thank you for joining us in person today.
Thank you for having us. Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Patrick Anderson. I am the lead for this performance audit conducted by the Office of the Washington State Auditor. Joining me today is my colleague, Robert Evershank, who also worked on this audit. Today, we will present the results of our performance audit, which sought to evaluate WSDOT's toll collection system replacement project. But before I begin, I'd just like to take a moment to thank the staff and management at the Department of Transportation for their cooperation and assistance during the audit. I'd like to begin by highlighting the audit's key results. We found that WSDOT Toll Division followed state requirements and leading practices throughout the audit, or throughout the project, That included those designed to mitigate risks. But despite the toll division's effort to minimize those risks, vendor performance delayed the project by more than 2 years. Toll division estimates that the back office system replacement project will cost $13 million more than what was budgeted. And lastly, while most of those additional costs will be recovered, the toll division relied on a reporting method that did not include the total project cost. So why did we conduct this audit? WSDOT Toll Division is responsible for the state's toll collection system procurement, development, operation, and strategic financial planning. In 2017, its first toll contract was due to end. Therefore, WSDOT moved to replace both the system and its vendor to improve upon the limitations of the old system. This effort resulted in the legislature approving $30 million to replace the state's first-generation tolling system. Ultimately, rising concerns around costs and causes of delays resulted in this performance audit. In 2021, the legislature mandated this audit. We divided the audit into these 3 questions designed to evaluate Toll Division's project planning, vendor procurement, contract management, and oversight of its tolling replacement project. I'll now turn the presentation over to my colleague Robert to discuss the audit's findings and results.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm Robert Evershank, Performance Auditor with the Office of the State Auditor. For our first audit result, we found that the Toll Division followed state requirements and leading practices throughout the project, including those practices designed to mitigate risk. The Toll Division established the project needs during the planning and procurement phases, and as part of the planning process, they awarded 2 contracts for the replacement system. Contract 1 was for the back office system. This includes both the hardware and the software. Contract 2 was for the customer service center operations. That includes the people. It also covers other costs, such as the lease for the vendor-provided facilities. For our second audit result, we found that vendor performance delayed the project by more than 2 years, despite the Toll Division's efforts to minimize risk. The back office system vendor repeatedly missed deadlines, which meant the launch date initially set for December 2018 was delayed at least 8 times. There were 2 main causes contributing to the delays. First, the vendor struggled to follow WSDOT's documentation requirements. The vendor was required to fully complete and get approval at each step before proceeding with the next step of the development process. The vendor told us they were more familiar with an iterative development process, and the level of documentation required by WSDOT was more than the staff were used to generating. Second, the vendor had difficulty hiring and retaining staff in critical positions. For example, one of WSDOT's requirements was that an information technology project manager was to work on-site in Washington. The vendor told us it was difficult to find a project manager experienced with both information technology and tolling systems that lived in or was willing to move to Washington. While there was a delay, Phase 1 delivered core functions along with some new features in July 2021. Phase 1 included the core functions of the first-generation tolling system, such as customer account management and pay-by-mail invoice generation and distribution. Phase 1 also included new features and system upgrades that were not part of the previous system. The new single customer account concept addressed the previous system's limitation where 2 critical databases did not communicate with each other. Secondly, the new system includes a write-off module, which should save time when staff prepare financial reports, and also write-off should occur more seamlessly with WSDOT's accounting system. Finally, scalable integration addresses adding new toll facilities or connecting the tolling system with other WSDOT systems. Yet the Toll Division deferred some features to a Phase 2. 2 of the deferred features had been identified to address other limitations with the first-generation system. First, by adding a collections module, WSDOT expects to increase the amount of revenue from delinquent accounts. Second, adding a data warehouse feature for improved reporting, data analysis, and forecasting would help Toll Division managers make better informed decisions. For our third audit result, we found the toll division estimates the back office system replacement will cost $43 million, which is a $13 million increase to the original budget. Much of the additional cost was driven by extending other contracts while waiting for the back office system to be ready. As Phase 1 was not completed until July 2021, which was more than 2 years after the initially planned launch date of December 2018, and because the new customer service center operations rely on the replacement back office system, there was an added $7 million cost that the toll division paid to that vendor during the delay. The vendor hired and trained staff more than once while also paying for the service center leases. During the delay, the toll division kept some of those staff busy, but there's not enough work for all, so leading to layoffs. While there were additional costs due to delay, liquidated damages will help the state recoup most losses. The liquidated damages clause in the original contract was intended to motivate the vendor to deliver the project on schedule. However, the vendor repeatedly failed to meet the contractually required go-live date for Phase 1. The toll division negotiated additional liquidated damages, which exceeded the amount in the original contract by $10 million, as part of the process to amend the contract and revise the guaranteed delivery date. However, because some components were deferred to a Phase 2, the true cost of the project will not be known until it's been completed. Over the course of the audit, the toll division provided to us multiple estimates for Phase 2 costs, ranging from $1.8 to $4 million. Finally, the toll division relied on a reporting method that did not include total project costs. As previously mentioned, the toll division estimates the total project cost increased to $43 million. Yet they reported $32 million on the public-facing website maintained by the Office of the Chief Information Officer. We asked why the total cost was not reported, and WSDOT told us it used the format required by the information officer for large technology projects. The toll replacement project includes costs not only related to information technology, but also the customer service center operations, while the costs reported on the information officer's website focus on the technology costs. Now I'll turn it back to Patrick to go over the audit recommendations.
Thanks, Robert. We make 4 recommendations to the Department of Transportation. To reduce risk of delays and maintain continuity in management and oversight of the project, we recommend WSDOT ensure that the apparent successful vendor has demonstrated the ability to deliver the project following the software development approach the agency has selected. Develop a process to evaluate the benefits for requiring the vendor's project manager to be on site rather than allowing remote work, and require information technology vendors to identify a contingency plan for turnover in key project management positions. Lastly, to address the need for transparency and reporting total project costs, we recommend that WSDOT add to an existing reporting method or work with the Office of the Chief Information Officer or Office of Financial Management to develop a public cost reporting method to allow all project costs for tolling projects to be disclosed. That concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Senator Rivers.
Thank you. Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Was the IT requirement mentioned in the RFQ or RFP?
This is Robert Evishing speaking. Can you clarify, is that?
The requirement that they have someone local, someone who lives in the state, was that addressed?
That was in the original RFP, yes.
So I guess I would take umbrage at the idea that you would call this a successful vendor. I mean, I think it's really great we got our money back. And I appreciate your recommendations. I agree with them. But I think that there's a problem when the original document that the vendor was supposed to follow, they couldn't deliver on. So I would like to point that out. And then, is this the system that will drive every tolled facility in the state of Washington?
Yes, this would be, it's all consolidated under the one system.
The reason that I asked that question is I have a
Don't go there.
I have a probable facility, and I wonder about the back-end costs on that facility. And so if there's some division amongst all the facilities, then it's not as painful. But this is a significant price tag. I also have to say, for the record, really concerned about the differing financial figures that were presented to the public and then another behind closed doors. And I think that we have a responsibility to assure transparency and to rebuild some credibility, and yet we didn't get that done. Thank you.
So one question which also will be for DOT here is the total cost reporting well, let me just, maybe it's for the State Auditor's Office. In general best practices and expectations when you do fiscal audits of agencies, wouldn't that be shown as, the total obligation show up on their balance sheets and reported? And does that then get reported to the relevant committees of the legislature?
Yes, the department might be able to speak to more detail, but from what we saw in the evidence, that those costs are reported on the financial statements. It's just how you only look at a piece of it that's related to this project versus is it represented under a budget line item that you don't realize that some of those costs are going to this project because it's coming from different budget line items.
Thank you. Not seeing any other questions. Let's ask, and thank you for your work on this. Let's ask the Department of Transportation to join us. Are they in person or online? Okay, online. So let's have our State Auditor's Office stay up here. And welcome, and please introduce yourselves for Department of Transportation.
Well, good afternoon, Chair Paulette and the members of the committee. My name is Edward Berry. I'm the Toll Division Director here at the Washington State Department of Transportation. And with me today is Jennifer Charlebois, the Toll Division Director, Deputy Director here at WSDOT. So let me begin by offering my thanks to the State Auditor's Office. WSDOT is so appreciative of the collaboration and cooperative approach taken by SAO while performing this audit. WSDOT is always seeking ways to improve, and the feedback from the State Auditor's Office will help us improve our processes going forward. As the report from the State Auditor's Office outlines, WSDOT followed state requirements, leading guidance, best practices throughout the entirety of the project. The new back office system and customer service operations launched successfully in July of 2021. Since then, Good to Go customers have benefited from an improved customer experience, including new payment options, new ways to manage accounts, more self-service features, improved notifications, and improvements to mygoodtogo.com. So with that, now Jennifer Charlebois will discuss some more details of the audit. Jennifer?
Thank you, Ed. And thank you, Chair Paulette and members of the committee. As Ed mentioned, my name is Jennifer Charlebois. I am the Toll Division Deputy Director, and I represent the Department of Transportation. WSDOT has kept customers in the front of our minds throughout the life cycle of this project, from designing the system to navigating the vendor's delays. The system was designed based on years of customer feedback to make it easier for customers to manage their accounts and save money on their tolls. Ultimately, this project delivered results for our customers. In the first year, more customers are saving money on their tolls by taking advantage of the system's new features. A couple of examples. Almost 200,000 customers who were previously pay-by-mail customers have converted their toll bills to good-to-go accounts using our new website. The website shows customers how much money they can save on their unpaid bill by opening an account. Secondly, approximately 270,000 customers have created good-to-go accounts using the new pay-as-you-go payment option. This option charges tolls directly to a credit card and requires no prepayment of tolls. And this was an option that we'd heard for years from customers that they wanted to see. WSDOT aimed for as seamless a transition as possible for our nearly 2 million toll-paying customers. To achieve this, WSDOT ensured the system was thoroughly tested to reduce the possibility that good-to-go customers would be negatively affected. This did mean delaying the system launch to ensure it met WSDOT standards for accuracy and reliability while minimizing customer impact. While the vendor's performance did lead to delays, WSDOT took steps to hold the vendor accountable and reduce delays where possible. This included upholding the terms of the contract and negotiating additional liquidated damages to help cover the cost of delays. This audit highlighted a few areas where WSDOT can add additional requirements or considerations to future IT procurements based on lessons learned from this experience. WSDOT plans to incorporate those recommendations into guidance provided by WSDOT's IT Project Management Office. Guidance provided by WSDOT's IT PMO will help direct improvements not just to future toll contracts, but to all future WSDOT IT procurements. Lastly, WSDOT agrees that transparency is of the utmost importance, and it helps ensure both stakeholder and public trust in the agency. WSDOT worked throughout the life of this project to share information regularly about the project status, delays, and associated costs with OCIO, OFM, the governor's office, and the legislature, particularly the transportation committees. WSDOT appreciates SAO's suggestion for increased transparency, and we are committed to working with both OCIO and OFM on future projects to make improvements. In this specific case, WSDOT is working with the OCIO currently to ensure that clarifying information is added to the IT project dashboard. Thank you so much for your time today, and we are available for questions.
Thank you for your responsiveness, and Representative Orcutt has the first question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It seems like we had a problem with 167 with a toll vendor back in the mid-teens, and now we've got problems with the back office. The auditor talked about the way that the monitoring was being done, that something had to be finalized and signed off by DOT before they could continue. Is that a continuing problem? Was that part of the problem we had originally with the 167 toll vendor? And is it a problem in the requirements that are being put forth to the toll vendor, because they said they weren't familiar with performing their work under that set of criteria? Is that leading to some of the problems that we're seeing here?
So I can take a first stab at that. I think what you're referring to is potentially the 2010, 2011 previous transition of our back office system. So that system transition was also delayed. And there were some similarities in the reasons for that delay. You asked about contract requirements for documentation and approvals at gated steps. That's collectively referred to as a waterfall software development methodology, which is standard practice for WSDOT to require, as well as many other government agencies. The vendor in this case had not had a ton of experience doing previous work with those requirements, although they were required in the original RFP and agreed to by the vendor. I will say also that delays in large complex IT projects like this one, particularly back office implementations across the country, are typically delayed in this fashion. Done a lot of work to understand what we're seeing nationally in the toll industry in particular, and this is common. So something that the industry as a whole is working to improve.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Follow-up. I know that many of the states along the eastern seaboard, actually, I grew up in one of them, that has toll facilities. So there's quite an experience, and I know California has some tolling and other states too. How many different toll vendors are there serving the United States to even choose from? And are they having problems in some of these other states with toll vendors, especially with back office?
Yeah,
So
go ahead, Ed.
okay, I'll preamble that, Jennifer. So that's a good question. So there is really a smaller subset of, IT procurement specialists that do tolling back office procurements. And that's, I guess, in some ways part of the problem. There's a limited number of vendors that can do this work. And, one of the trade group that represents a lot of the toll agencies across the country and the world is called IBTTA. And systems integration and back office launches have been a focus of this group for many, many years, as long as that I've been installing it. So it's a known issue on how we as the owners, the vendors, and the integrators can all work together to put out good proposals, to get realistic vendor participation and timelines and estimates of launch. So it's a known issue that's hard to solve. All of the toll agencies are very involved in trying to solve it, but it's a known issue. As you say, the Eastern Seaboard, yes, Florida, Texas. If you do a quick Google search, you'll see similar stories that have occurred across the country. So, Jennifer, sorry for the preamble.
Oh no, you addressed the question. I just wanted to add, based on my understanding, there are probably, I would say, 6 to 10 companies across the nation that could be responsive to this type of program.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. We had one person signed up for remote testimony. I'm not seeing their name here, unless they're...
Okay, haven't come back.
If the person is watching on TVW, you could rejoin and we'd let you back in. So I'll wait just a minute here. While we're waiting, let me just ask if the State Auditor's Office wants to add anything else.
No, I think the department answered those questions. They're not different than what I was expecting based on, learning about it throughout the course of the audit.
Okay. Has the person rejoined us? Yes, ma'am? Nope. Okay. All right. In that case, we will close this item. We can always welcome someone back at the end of the meeting. And thank you again for coming for us and presenting on the audit.